Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Andrew. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. So primarily my background's in the direct response space, and then pivoted to DTC for a few years. But again, primarily in direct response. Last year, with all the clients we work with, we drove directly attributed to us over $19 million in revenue. And this year, we're on pace to double that. So a lot of what we'll talk about today is really just how we do creative at scale with high spending, and then also just a lot of tangible takeaways. We're not going to do anything philosophical. This is all going to be stuff where you could take pictures with your phones and really get a lot out of it.
In the e-com space in particular, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people making with respect to email and SMS?
Yeah, so there's three mistakes that I see a lot, and a lot of it I think comes from the fact that like us as creatives, we really struggle to emotionally detach from the work we do. So the first one that I see a lot, especially when we're working with team members or working with different teams, is not keeping the customer in mind when we're designing. So our process for creative is never what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like. It's always like, what's the end goal for the customer, and then how does that anchor back to the brand we're working for? Because at the end of the day, like if we're running ads, we're trying to make money. Like as good of intentions we have, we're trying to grow a business. It's like mistake number one for me is always just not keeping the customer in mind in what we do. The second, and I think this is something as designers we fall into a trap to, is we'll see like on Twitter an email we love or an SMS campaign we like, and we copy and take inspo from that without understanding again how it ties back to what we're doing. So we have brands where like we'll spend hours on graphics that just tank because we know like direct response style copy works way better, but we think it looks really cool. We'll put the money and resources to do it because we thought it looked cool over there, and when we put it in there, it just flops. And it's just because just getting that shiny object syndrome of what you're doing. So like the number one takeaway from this is just like when you do a test, be very intentional about testing and reporting to see what's actually going to work. Don't pivot your whole strategy around just because one brand that's doing several million is doing it. Because we have, like I said, we have one brand that does millions of dollars in plain text emails, just crush. And as a designer, I hate it. And the easiest one to fix is literally just not utilizing email and SMS flows. Every brand that I've checked out, a lot of them just have the core ones, but there's so many other ways to leverage this, and this is something that I can definitely speak to a lot more. Yeah, so I think this is one mistake I see a lot of people walk into is not understanding the level of annoyance that a text versus email could be. So this is kind of a guideline that we run with our team. So for us, SMS, we always want these to sound like a text. Like if someone sends me a text where it looks like an email, it's formatted very properly, I don't really, like my brain turns off because we don't text our friends with, like when you send a period to someone, it sounds like you're mad. It's like when you're texting, especially for like feminine driven brands like swimwear companies, you don't want to be using like really formal text. You want to make it fun and cute and enjoyable. With text, you have to be strategic about sending. I see a lot of people, especially on the automated flows with SMS, just do like 24 hours after they abandon the cart. But if they abandon at 2 a.m., they're going to get a text at 2 a.m. if you have smart sending off, and then they're going to get pissed off and unsubscribe, and you just lost that customer, wasted money. The third one, it's not talked about a lot, but like on SMS, you have to make it easy to purchase. Like no more than 2 taps. If you're sending someone to like a collection page and there's 40 products and they're on their phone, let's say they're walking or something, you're asking too much of them. It's going to take too much energy to process all that. So what we always do is make sure when we send a text, it takes 2 taps for them to place that order. Find the product, tap, order, and done. Just remove as many barriers as possible, and then make it enjoyable and fun. We'll show an example at the end, but there's nothing worse than boring text, like especially from a brand, because you know you're already getting sold, so you need to make that little extra incentive. Do
you think Attentive as a platform encourages over texting just to support their revenue model? I'm surprising him with this question, by the way. It just popped up in my head. I heard somebody make this argument last week, and I was like, that's really interesting.
So, I mean, I use Attentive. I love Attentive. A lot of times we take their considerations in mind. You should definitely text on the frequency that works for your brand. So, like, there's no one size fits all. So if someone says you need to text once a day, some people text once every week. I would just say test and see what works. And what I like to do is I don't measure unsubscribes. I like to measure LTV. So we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later. But what I do with SMS is, like, if we have a highly transactional abandonment cart text and we compare it to like a more conversational, we measure the LTV over like 90 to 100 days and determine if it works. Because unsubscribes, to me, people always churn, but the LTV to see like what type of text to bring a customer in is going to make a better customer, that's what I prefer to measure.
Cool. Moving on to email.
So email is like, a lot of people focus on the design of the email, but the biggest battle is the headline. Otherwise, you're just going to get archived in the inbox. You're already in the promotions tab. You already have a huge hill ahead of you. So, like, if you really want to win with email, you have to make these headlines work. If you're going to invest any time or money, like, invest in a copywriter to really create some engaging headlines before you even decide to open Photoshop or Figma to design something. And once you open that email, like, you, especially abandonment cart, don't just put the actual product that the person abandoned. Like, they abandoned that product because there was some objection they had with that product that didn't make sense for them to buy. So what we like to do in our abandoned cart emails is make sure we hide, and this is a lot of work, like full transparency, you got to set up for all your SKUs. But for our top SKUs, we give all the reasons why someone should buy it. We give testimonials, and we put them into context of like how it helped their life, how they enjoyed the product, and we just make this whole mini landing page in the email for that product. Because if our goal is to get them to buy again, just seeing the picture isn't enough. And what we also do is we offer alternatives. Sometimes people find a product and then they leave, but then they don't want to buy it. But if we show them alternatives, Amazon's really good about this. Like, a lot of people will buy if they see something they like, but most of the time when we do our emails or whatever, we never even give them the opportunity to do that. And then this is the biggest one I see, is make sure you have a clear call to action above that fold. If someone opens the email and your image is all the way up here and then your like title and buttons down here and you have to scroll, you lost. Like, you've wasted that send. You got to get more like sends on Klaviyo. It's a complete waste. So at the very top, and it doesn't always look the best, make it very clear what the item or for sale is and a very clear call to action.
Cool. My next question, I have a sense for what the answer is going to be, but do you have any like big picture thoughts on how transactional in nature this cart abandonment SMS or email should be versus brand voice? Like, can you just butcher your brand voice by being too transactional? You know, is that how do you think about that?
So we deal with this a lot, especially on the ad side too, because brands want to keep all the creative like on brands. What I always do, because I don't like having those conversations, is we just run a 120-day test. Like, we have highly transactional emails split tested against more conversational on brand voice, and then we're like, to me, LTV is the only matter that, like, the only figure that matters to me is how can we create a customer that's going to purchase again and again. That's more valuable in every sense. So we measure LTV over a 100-day window on, okay, we send this customer a very transactional text, and they bought the same product as this person who got conversational, who became a better customer. And it's not always 100% accurate, but we found that that's given us better results over, you know, a 1 to 2 year window.
Sweet. All right, moving right along here. When I was talking at the Blue Whale group, I referenced this text of yours that you showed me that I thought was just amazing. For a product abandonment, you just sent eyeballs. And that's it. And then a link to bring them back. Can you tell us the story of this, how well it worked, why it worked, like where the idea even came to you, like, you know?
So like my thought process is when something works, I try to find a way to break it. So we had, you know, I subscribed to like 30 brands text, and I saw a lot of the reminders were exactly the same. So we had one brand that was more like, they're more fun with their voice. And I was like, what if I just put these like stupid eye emojis? Because like when I text someone, and if I text someone, they don't reply, and then I'm waiting for a response, this is how I'll text. I'll just send the eye emojis. And like on their phone, they're going to see the eye emojis, and like, they're like, what the heck is this? And they'll click. And it really is super dumb, but it's also what I was talking about with SMS, is making it fun and like having personality with it. And I wish I had the stats for this, but this is still the abandonment cart for like the first time purchase on this brand. And it's just so silly, but like they see the eyeball emojis and then they'll just click the minimum click the link to see what's up. And if they buy, great, but if they don't, like they at least like got a good laugh out of it and they might purchase down the road.
Yeah. What do we got next here? We shot a lot of video yesterday. You're big on video as a medium, and you run large spend for a bunch of different guys. And why do you like video so much? Is question number one.
I really like videos because I think a large portion of advertising is trying to create an emotional connection. And when you are utilizing text and graphics, it's really hard to have convey intent. So like when you message someone like on Slack or text and you put a period like at the end of the sentence, it sounds so stupid, but like you feel like that person might be mad or just the tonality's off. Whereas if that person said that same exact thing over the phone where you could hear their voice, hear the tone, it'd be way different. So I really like video because one of the ways I like to run ads is I like to take problems that are going on in the world and then match it up with problems the customer has, and then match it up with the solution we provide. And if we just highlighted all those problems in text, it'd seem very negative. But because we're able to kind of, even with tonality, like when we're shooting yesterday, like how we taper our voice at the end of a sentence to kind of make it seem like it's continuing, all those little details are so powerful, especially with ads. And you see with UGC, like the reason why UGC works so well is because you see, like you can visualize it, you can hear like a soft, like calm voice to really like convey like, oh, this is a nice product, and it's way more effective than just if you had text on screen and no voice. You can really feel the emotion and also the intent behind what you're selling.
So are you big on video for everybody? Do you think that if someone didn't have that propensity, it's worth trying to pursue video, or is it just like, if that's your thing, lean into it as hard as possible? If not, try to find another medium that sort of comes to you that easily to sort of go hard after.
Yeah, I think today, in 2022 and going forward, you have to do video, whether it's you or you bring someone in to do it. With platforms like TikTok and then Instagram Reels, attention spans have, and we've seen it like with ads, like 2020 we can run the same ad for a long time. Now we're lucky if the same ad will last for a week. And that's just because attention spans are going down. So the difference between like a video and text is text requires more energy in your brain to process. You have to read, you have to think, and you have to turn that text into like visuals in your head so you can understand it. Video, you can actually just mindlessly sit there and watch, which is why TikTok has such a long retention time, because they're literally just mindlessly scrolling and videos just feeding them information. So if you're not doing video right now, that's definitely something you have to lean into, because every platform is pivoting there, and also just like the consumer is getting lazier and lazier when it comes to processing that information. It's why with like especially in D2C, like a lot of times we see like videos outperform our old text-based graphics or just regular graphics or mock-ups or lifestyle shots, just because people enjoy the fact they can just sit there and just mindlessly scroll.
Yeah. Well, what are your favorite video channels right now and why?
So I really like TikTok, not for the reason that most people do. TikTok comments are very mean and really funny. I posted a video on my thing, and I got shamed into getting my eyebrows waxed. I had like a half unibrow. But what's cool about that is you can respond to those comments, or you can highlight it and respond, and like the engagement's just so much better. Facebook people will just say like, this sucks, or I hate you. TikTok will get creative with the comments. So we've had people like really like shit on brands we work on, and then we highlight that comment on the organic page, and then just get a ton of engagement and sales for it. Because it's back in the day, like when, like who remembers when Wendy's first started getting on Twitter and they started like harassing people? It was the funniest thing ever. And if you look at like their sales from when they did that to like a year after, they doubled. And it's just because you're adding like a level of humanism to the brand, and just people love the sarcasm. So like TikTok's definitely my favorite just for the comments. And then like my go-to, obviously, like I prefer like, you know, than everyone else on Facebook and Instagram. But for me, TikTok, I love just having me and team members go through, respond to comments, find comments we can make ads about. And then it's also people ask questions about your products if they're genuinely interested on TikTok, which then can fuel what creative you're going to shoot next week.
Like you told me something a couple weeks ago about some of the targeting on YouTube that people may not be aware of. Like the targeting specific login pages and stuff, like, dude, the SSO, whatever, single sign-on or like two-factor authentication page.
So this is something we had a couple Google reps confirm to us. So if you're running YouTube ads, this may be less for D2C and more for like direct response. So there's a segment in Google for YouTube ads where, so if anyone uses Chrome, even if you click on your favorites and go to a website, Google counts it as a search. So what we do, like when I do lead gen for my agency, or what we'll do for his software, or any of the more direct response stuff we'll do, you can target specific pages people go to, and it's not like a lookalike audience, it's the actual traffic, as long as they have Google Analytics installed. So like if you're an agency and you're trying to get really like high net worth people, there's a login page for Wells Fargo, and the only way to log into that bank is with a two-factor authentication key. You need $15 million cash net worth. I run ads to that login page, and we get booked calls with people that have millions of dollars, and they're like, yeah, like, I don't know how I saw your ad, but like, you know, a lot of these guys are in real estate. We do a lot of stuff with real estate, and it works. So hopefully that's there for a little bit longer, but if you're like advertising an agency or whatever, you can literally run ads to everyone who logs into like the Shopify Plus login URL.
Yeah, like
Shopify.
That's what we're going to do. Shopify Plus, Attentive, you know, Klaviyo or whatever. It's just fantastic
So
to know that that's there.
So when you go to that segment, don't do people who browse types of websites. Just paste the URL in people who search for, because every URL visit is counted as a search. It's not public. You're not supposed to do it, but it's there for now. So definitely capitalize on it while it's there.
Cool. All right, scooting right along. So we used lots of props yesterday. Tell me about that.
So I love props. Props are cool because you can communicate the same idea in multiple ways. So you can tell someone the same exact thing in 3 different mediums. You can tell them by like the environment you're in, the thing you're holding, so this one will play in a second. But I love it because it's memorable. When someone sees an ad and then they see something really like far out, like this is a giant pill, and you'll see the stupid pun that we did with it, like they just remember it. And then we hope is if we have an ad that takes off and we spend a ton of money, which we've had a lot of different ads. So we ran ads for this real estate guy named Ryan Pineda, and our best YouTube ad ever started with him at a urinal peeing. And when people would come to the event, we just sold out the Mandalay Bay, 700 people with that ad, and they're like, yeah, man, like I found you because you're peeing in the urinal. And Ryan doesn't like, he's like, what? But that's what I want, is I want people to have some sort of association. The same reason why, like, you know, a lot of people wear the same cologne, because when you walk in a room, you want to be remembered for the smell. It's like we try to do that as many ways with ads as possible. So this one, let me see if I can play it. It's like just a raw footage that we shot yesterday, but like you'll see the joke with it.
I mean, you couldn't really hear that, but
yeah, it says a tough pill to swallow, and he holds up a big pill. It's stupid but funny, but you know, hopefully someone remembers it, leaves a mean comment, and then he can respond.
Yeah, and like there were 10 other of these that we did with similar puns, so it was great. So at least that's what was explained to me. I probably should have let you say that. But like, tell me about this whole method and how you came up with it and why you think it works.
So it's not like an innovative idea at all. All we're doing is just trying to isolate variables when we test. So there's 2 main reasons. Like, if you've ever worked with a client and then you give them a script and then you get the video back and it sucks, that's because a lot of people just aren't good with video. So one thing that I try to figure out and try to solve is, how can I get better videos back faster? And me asking the client, hey, can you shoot me 20 full-length ads? Like, yeah, I could probably do it in a few weeks. But then if I change the ask to, can you shoot me 10 7-second hooks, 5 2-minute bodies, and then 3 20-second CTAs, then the ask is significantly lower. It's also way easier for them to actually succeed with that, because you can literally say a hook in 7 seconds, but if they had to memorize that whole thing without you in the room scripting it, it would be significantly harder to do. So like what we do is, once we get all that, and I'll show you some like practical tips on how we organize all that, is when we run our ads, we like to isolate those variables. So I like to know what hooks perform the best, with what body of the ad works the best, with what CTA works the best, And then what we do is we group all of them so we know like, hey, we're going to run an ad around this angle. We already know what hooks to test with it that have historically worked. It's a very scientific approach. It's very head spinning to try to organize all of it. Our Google Drive for a long time, it's still a mess, but it's a really cool process, like kind of outlining how we do all this. And like I said, we like to get stuff out as fast as possible because if something's happening in the world that we can use as an ad or as a lever, I want to be the first person like in the market. And a lot of times we just lose opportunities because we allow like different barriers. And this is a way we do it without overworking people and also without spending a ton of money. So like the first thing we do is we try to generate ideas and concepts. In the front row we have Emily. She's really big at helping us do this. And the big thing with that is like the crazier the better. Like when we were planning out Adam's ads, we weren't talking about how the product helped people. We're talking about, okay, like what kind of crazy props can we get? So we got giant scissors, we got a smoke bomb, we got a shovel.
The message in a bottle.
Oh yeah,
like
the
the
little,
super cool one.
Yeah, like we got this little flash drive in like a bottle, like it looks like it's lost at sea. Like that's what we like to start with because we already know what provides value to the customer. We just got to get in front of the customer and steal their attention. So once we do all that, we turn all of our concepts and again hooks, bodies, and CTAs, and then we film it. One of the tips that I found that's helped me a lot is most cameras allow you to change the file like naming convention. So what we do is like for yesterday, we had Adam-hook_ and then the numbering. So then when I uploaded it to my computer, all the hooks were already labeled, all the bodies were all labeled, and then the CTAs were. So I don't have to rename anything, so it goes straight to the editors. 3, we edit them. So we have around-the-clock editing. We utilize people in the US and in Latin America for our time zone, and then we utilize people overseas in the Philippines and different countries to work overnight. So when those videos were done, we got finished at like noon. My US team is only working for another few hours. So then they work for a few hours, and then we sent the rest over to the overseas team. So 24/7, we have videos being edited around the clock, and all I have to do, because we're labeling the files, is just upload it to the drive and I'm done. So from shooting to editing is realistically probably a few hours total. And then once we have the edited videos, we group and organize by topic, product, and angle. So we just have folders in our drive. And if you're using Google Drive, we're going to migrate over to Air. But while we're on Drive, there's a tags feature. So we add tags about what the ad is about, the hook, the product. So I could literally go search in there for him, like Shopify store owner, scissor, and it'll show me all the hooks and ads with those items in there. And it takes like 2 seconds to pull it up. And then lastly, like I don't reinvent the wheel. If we have an ad that wins, our goal is to literally just shoot as many iterations as possible and find new ways to reach that and just capitalize on that momentum while it's there.
Sweet. All right, last sort of point here. Do you have any philosophical North Star principles about creative in general in all these ads that you seem, I mean, to me it's just so amazing. It's like the ideas, the production, and the execution, it's all super tight. It all happens so fast. Like, are there any like principles that when you're like bringing your team on, you're sort of, this is what we do, this is how we think, you know?
Yeah, so my background originally was in design. I think I first downloaded Photoshop illegally when I was 12. And I learned very quickly that just doing graphic design was only going to get me to like a certain income level. So then pivoting to marketing, and over the years, I've learned like what I call the 4 creative commandments, and we live and die by these on our team. So the biggest one for me is, and we made it silly, thou shalt not. For me, solve a problem before we fully understand it from the customer's point of view. And you got to use empathy with it and just really dive deep. So like for a product like Athletic Greens, the reason why an athlete would need that product is way different than like maybe a dad who wants to have longevity to be there longer for our kids. But a lot of times is we group the solution of being healthy, but we never consider why they want to be healthy. So what we try to do is always really understand like who's going to use this, why are they going to use it, what like emotional trigger are we going to invoke with our ads, and we design with that first. And that's why with a lot of the ads we get better, longer customers because we're targeting the actual reason why they would need to buy. We're not targeting because they want to be healthy. We're targeting because the dad wants to have a healthier lifestyle, to be there for his kids longer and be be able to play ball and have energy when he gets home. The next one is thou shalt not use language that does not your customers don't resonate with. You have to take the time to understand how the people you're designing for, and this is where I see a lot of agencies struggle, is they have a blueprint they use with one person and they copy and paste it to another without fully understanding the voice. The way you communicate to like Athletic Greens audience versus like a teenage girl swimmer company is night and day. But a lot of people are gonna go and just copy and paste the template. So like the biggest thing, especially when we're looking at copy, is like, is this words that we can visualize a customer actually seeing and understanding? 3, thou shalt not design without pattern interruption in mind. Like you said, you literally have to stop the scroll. You have to stop the email from going to archive. You got to stop the unsubscribe. So a lot of times we prioritize just getting someone to like see our ad. So a lot of times we can't always sell like the greatest feature and benefit. We literally just got to hook them in. And our goal is to hook them in, get them to the landing page. Everything kind of flows correctly. And we just really emphasize pattern interruption in our creative process. And lastly, and most importantly, like you should never let the customer control the flow of attention. Like the less thinking someone has to do, the more money you will make as a brand or a marketer or whatever you're doing. So if you are running ads and you're sending the customer to a homepage and they saw an ad for a product, think of how much thinking and steps it's going to take to get to that product. And as social media becomes more and more just feeding people content, the less enjoyment for doing all that critical thinking is going to go. So like what we do is, especially with websites, we try to answer every single question someone's going to have before they answer it in the order they're going to ask it, and just give them the information they need to buy. That's the only thing I want to have on there. And a lot of times when we work with different brands, they're like, well, we want to have on the second slide like our brand story. And the question we ask them is, okay, does the brand story support someone in making that purchase decision? No. Okay, well then we need to put that on a separate area because you're going to add friction and add steps. It's like, this is the most important for me, is really just making sure that you have full control of that flow of attention. The less thinking someone has to do, way more money you'll make, and also just it's a way more enjoyable experience. If it supports them making a purchase, it makes sense. But a lot of times, like if you're just putting like our mission just to have an our mission, then you have to have intentionality with where you place things and where everything goes. Like it's maybe nice to have it there, and I think having like brand stories is also more effective and tied into what you're doing. So if you're trying to get someone to buy, or like you're really promoting this mission, like you just have to figure out what goal you're trying to align for. Like if you want to go really big brand story and not very purchase driven, then the business side of what you do needs to reflect that. But a lot of brands prioritize revenue, and you need to find a way to creatively embed your brand story into a revenue path.
How much does it cost?
How much does what cost?
Making the videos, like what do you recommend? What have you seen out there? Percent of spend models, flat fee? Full disclosure, I make video ads too.
I mean, we could talk and see. If there's a way I can help out, like what I like to do, especially the editing, is just for the editing, we use recruiters to find our editors. Like, just come talk to me, and I'm sure I could help you get set up, or maybe we could work together. But yeah, let's definitely talk. You just have to test it. That's probably the generic answer. I feel like it really depends on the personality of the brand. Like the brands that we have that have funnier voices, we can text a lot more because the texts are fun. The ones where it's really product and revenue driven, we try to do like very high impact with it. But it's again tailored to like brand voice. You can have a lot more fun with it. But ultimately, just like I would test and see, because what we have is like one of the faith-based brands we worked with, we had certain SKUs where we could send more on and certain SKUs where we couldn't. So like we would test specific SKUs, specific like product journeys, and we found like with one SKU we could send like follow-up text like for 2 or 3 days. One, we'd get like a ton of unsubscribes. So I would just try to like, if your flows are just sitting, try like a new test each week depending on your volume, and just be intentional about reporting it. But typically, like if I had to say a broad spectrum, we send less SMS than email, just because SMS goes directly to someone's phone. It's a little more personal. We're a little more like intrusive.
What's your benchmark for SMS unsubscribe rate?
That's a good question. I'd have to pull it up, but like on flows, it's pretty low. Like flows, we try to stay under 5%. For like one list, we have 1 million. We have like a 1 or 2%, but really, like we usually have decent churn. But like I said, the metric that I care about more is because we're running ads and our sole goal is just to get someone in for like that first purchase, we're trying to maximize LTV. So like the main benchmark I try to look at is as long as we're replacing all the people that are unsubscribing each time, then like we're happy.
Do you find that there's a performance difference between an SMS and an MMS? Or how do you treat like the cost of the actual text?
Every CFO the brand has hates me for this. For like new products, now if you have a huge list, it doesn't make sense. But like if we're doing a new drop, I love using images. Like I enjoy it, but really like the brand that has 1 million, because it has really witty copy and also like the people are trained, like there's a new drop every week, you can just do text. But like when we're just starting like on a smaller brand, we've seen just like image-based text do a lot better because it gives a chance like, oh, this is cool, let me check it out, versus like, oh, it's a text, like a random link, I don't want to click on it. Yeah, just a small ad for Triple L. If you're not using that in the Pixel, I know there's debate between that and Northbeam. When I first saw Triple L, it was just a dashboard, and I bought it personally for all my clients. And then when the Pixel came out, like Triple L will tell you like the new customer like payback, like they'll give you so much stuff. So if you're not using it, it's an awesome tool if you just want to nerd out. But highly recommend it, especially because they threw this event as well.